Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome back to another Eternal Contenders deck tech series here on my channel. It's been a while since the last Eternal deck tech. There wasn't really much to talk about, but now we have a new campaign, Homecoming, and I got the first deck for you guys, and it's an update to Hooru Control. A lot of people really liked this deck in the past, and it got some cool new toys, so I figured it's something that I can share with you guys fairly early, because it doesn't take as much testing and brewing as maybe some other new decks that I'll record in the future will, so it's a good way to kick off the Homecoming deck tech series. Alright, before we hop into the deck tech though, please hit the subscribe button, turn on notification icon to not miss out on future content if you haven't already, and please consider whitelisting YouTube on your adblock or just turn off your adblock while watching YouTube content, because that's what we YouTubers mostly depend on. So thanks for that, and now on to the deck tech. Alright, so let's go. This is the deck. At its core, it's still kind of the same deck as it always was. It's a Hooru colored control deck, but it changed quite a bit and got a bunch of sweet new toys. So let's talk about the deck. So first off, we have 12 units for Yennefer Merchant. It's not quite what it used to be, but you kind of want a Merchant, both because we need units for the new Coriat Palace that I'll talk about in a moment, and also because it provides some utility and flexibility that is at its peak in a deck like this, even though the 2-2 really doesn't line up that well with most opposing units. But yeah, everybody's smugglers or merchants got nerfed, so we are kind of in the same boat as most people. Then we have for Jotun Hurler, just nice synergy with the merchant, because it lets you go to the market for free effectively. It also provides a potential unit to attack and block with when necessary, or just a unit for Coriat Palace. Turn 5 Hurler, turn 6 Palace is just fine. Also, the Snowball provides an answer to Aegis. It also happens to provide early game removal against small aggressive units, Initiative of the Sands, Oni Ronin, District Infantry, Oyan, that sort of stuff. It also deals with Runehammer, which probably will be a bit more popular with the new set due to Vargo. And it also has some synergy with Honor of Claws, another new card that lets you draw 3 cards and discard 1, and then having half a card to discard is pretty good. And then we have for Throne Warden. This is both basically a life gain unit, because it gains you 4 life when you play it. With Aegis, it's a pretty reliable blocker and attacker in some matchups. We also need some units to pressure opposing sides, and Hurler and Warden have the right size of like 4 attack, which kills all the common sides right now. And also obviously the armor is more than just life gain in a deck that also happens to run a few relic weapons. So yeah, serves a bit of a double purpose there. Then we have some attachments. Speaking of relic weapons, we have 2 Auric Runehammer. The card is a bit hit or miss and not the most mana efficient every time, but it can be a 2-for-1, it can be a threat, a win condition of sorts, and we also need ways to deal with like medium-sized Aegis units and the new removal immune Vargo. So Runehammer does all of these things. It also deals with a fair share of units, even some 6-drops like Rizan. It's just a pretty well-rounded weapon. And then we have another new toy, Stormhalt Knife. It's a 6-cost 5/5 weapon, relic weapon, but if your health is 10 or less, it costs 0 power, which is pretty amazing. Like, imagine getting beat low by an aggressive deck. On turn 5, you just drop a Throne Warden and a Stormhalt Knife in the same turn. Now suddenly you have a 4/4 Aegis and a 5/9 relic weapon that just kills their best threat, and the game really swings heavily. It is possible that the deck might even want a 4th of these, but drawing multiples, especially too early, can be problematic, and there might be some matchups where you have to play them for 6 power So yeah, 3 seems like a good number. And then we have 1 Martyr's Chains, just kind of as like a random, like high impact late game card. First of all, we have 8 Aegis units and like some units from Palace and stuff that get buffed by it, so that is not completely irrelevant. And then obviously turning your overabundance of power cards into slays is pretty great, especially since we're also running Privilege of Rank to make sure we usually have a lot of power. The card is a bit slow, and in some matchups it's not that great, so that's why I only have 1, couldn't really fit more. I guess I could see 2 if I had the room, but I find all the other cards better or more important. And this is more kind of like an additional way to make sure we're not losing the long game. Now on to one of the most impactful new cards, Coriat Palace, the new site. So it's a 6 cost for durability site. Your units with 4 attack or more have endurance, so that means Throne, Warden and Hurler immediately get endurance, which is pretty nice. Also keep in mind, endurance now untaps at the end of your turn, not at the beginning of the opponent's turn, which can make some minor differences here and there for anyone that isn't aware of it. And yeah, Svetya's agenda gives us Wisdom of the Elders, so this is basically a better unnerved Vital Arcana, because that was 5 power, draw 2, gain 4. This is 6 power, draw 2, and often more than gain 4, because if the opponent wants to attack the palace, they have to attack the palace with everything they got. So a lot of the time they will deal overkill damage to it, so palace gaining you a lot of health. Sure, it costs 1 power more than Arcana, but it also potentially gains you a lot more health, and it obviously also does a whole lot more. If you can protect it, it turns into a whole win condition on its own. If you have a unit in play, you can make a big 8/8 or 6/6 Aegis Endurance threat that protects it, and then you draw cards the next turn, and then you even can give you a big threat or multiple units Berserk with Sack the City to pressure other more reactive slower decks. And the turn after you even get another threat that has some minor potential to draw your cards. We only have 12 units, so Svetya's ability is not likely to hit that often, but it's still a nice option to have in a really long drawn out game. So yeah, all in all, this is like unnerved Vital Arcana on steroids. That's how you have to look at it. Sure, it's not maximized in this deck as it would be in a unit heavier deck, where it's even better, but it's already way better than Vital Arcana would be, and we would have happily played something like Vital Arcana in a deck like this in the past. In fact, we did in Temporal, for example. And then we have the spell suit. For removal, we have 4 Defiance, 4 Vanquish, 2 Eilyn's Choice, and 4 Hurler. Defiance sort of takes the role of stuff like Torch in other decks that have access to that. This is our cheap early game removal. It happens to be better at the removal job than Torch, but worse at everything else. But yeah, we have ways to merchant it away or discard it to Honor of Claws if we don't need it. And even reactive decks usually have their 8 merchants or smugglers or whatever that Defiance can kill, for example. So, and there's the benefit of stunning bigger units, making this also useful at protecting Coriat Palace, for example. Vanquish, just 2 power, kill anything that is big and threatening and pressures us a lot. Not much else to ask for, really. Then we have 2 Eilyn's Choice as additional Vanquishes, and also the counter ability can come in handy here and there. And yeah, Hurler, just a sweeper. Hurler isn't that great right now. Mostly it's like kind of mid-range grindy decks with medium amounts of units, where spot removal is a lot more effective than Hurler, since it's hard to get a hard 2-for-1. Often you only get like 1 main threat and like something that just kind of is lying around and already generated value, like a merchant or whatever. So that's why there's also no additional copies of sweepers, like no 6-mana sweepers or anything. Hailstorm, also not very good. Not a lot of decks that are particularly susceptible to Hailstorm, but we have 1 copy in the market. We'll talk about the market in a moment. And then yeah, we have our card advantage package. For Privilege of Rank, for the synergy with Honor of Claws and also to make sure we don't miss our power drops, and also potentially feeding our merchant further. And yeah, it has great synergy with Honor of Claws because you can just discard it to Honor of Claws to play it for free. So turn 4 will usually be Honor of Claws, discard Privilege if you can afford to, because then suddenly you play cards worth 7 power for 4 power, and also, yeah, generate a lot of card advantage. Basically turn Honor of the Claws into 4 power, draw 3, which is insanely powerful. And yeah, so Honor of Claws, great addition, basically a much better Swindle. Swindle was a conditional 5 power, draw 3. This is a much kind of less conditional 4 power, draw 3, which is amazing. And yeah, Wisdom of the Elders, the bread and butter of any grindy controlling deck, making sure we hit our power drops, have a good mix of power and non-power cards, and also being a fast spell, so you can sometimes just pass with Eilyn's Choice open, and if nothing happens, you just Wisdom, or with Defiance and so on. Unfortunately, the deck doesn't really have much more fast spell options to go along with this, which is a bit of a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. And then we have 27 power. That might be one too few actually, especially because we don't have like Strategize on 2 or anything. Strategize is decent, but it's ultimately a bit of an underwhelming card that doesn't do that much for how much it costs. Sure, it has nice synergy with Hurler and so on, but yeah, we also gotta play enough cards that actually do stuff, and now Honor of Claws is just better than Strategize, and I don't think we can and should be playing Strategize, Wisdom, and Honor. That's getting too dirty and too low impact. So yeah, 27 power, could see a 28. So if you feel like you're constantly hoping to top deck power and barely get there hitting your power drops, or even don't get there, try and find a way to fit a 28 power, probably just a Primal Sigil. Could also be just a Sigil, not sure. And yeah, then let's talk about the market. Vision of Austerity to deal with some critical relics, like big relic weapons, Martyr's Chains, Pit of Lenectar, that sort of stuff. Just kind of a necessary evil to have around, really. Unseal, just a very flexible catch-all counterspell, also pretty important in longer games. Then a Hailstorm for the cases and matchups where it's good, which you don't see that often. So it's even possible that this shouldn't be here. But it's kind of a nice contingency to be able to mini sweep on turn 4. Because Harsh Rule can either be not enough as a 4 sometimes, or too slow. And while the matchups are not very common where that's the case, it's good to have the option if you're running them, because they still exist, they're just not very popular. Then we have another Eilyn's Choice, because I wanted a good flexible removal in the market. It also doubles as additional counterspell in some matchups, which is a nice bonus. And then we have our Haymaker market slot, brilliant idea. In the mid to late game, when we're pretty far ahead, opponent has no more resources, we are low on resources, we can just get brilliant idea, draw 4 to 6 cards and run away with the game. So being able to virtually run 4 of these without running 4 in the main is pretty great, because the card is obviously pretty bad until like 8 power or more. So it will sit in your hand a lot doing nothing. And now it sits in our market and we can just get it when we need it. Alright, that's the deck list. Latest take on Hooru Control. I played the deck on my very first stream with the set a bunch and did pretty decent. So yeah, for all the budgety control lovers out there, it is back and it has a lot of cool new toys. So let's take it to battle. See you in a moment with game number 1. Stay tuned.